Hey, hi, Carl Gruber here, host of this podcast, World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. Now, can you imagine being in a place in your life where it's just go, go, go all of the time, the stresses and traumas and dramas of daily life, and finally one day you go, oh my gosh, I simply can't take this anymore. I've got to do something for myself to slow down and relax and connect with myself again. And I think that my guest on today's show is one that a lot of you are going to say, oh man, is he talking about me? So check it out. Come with me and listen to my wonderful, wonderful guest. I think you're going to find this really interesting and maybe a big help to you.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Hey, this is episode number 112 of World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment podcast. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, this is a show that explores the far reaches of spirituality, metaphysics, and enlightenment as the people of the world are now awakening to their true light, love, and unity of all that is, and their own inherent power. Now, before we meet our guests, please take a moment to click the link below to get your copy of my free ebook, The 3 Pillars, a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life. All right, let's check in with our guest. Eleni Mitas is the founder of the world's first global hypnotherapy clinic called Hypnofit, with 18 hypnotherapy clinics in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and the US and Canada. She is the author of several books and was awarded the Hypnotist of the Year in 2018 by the Mid-American Conference in Chicago, and she's a well-known inspirational speaker. At the age of 53, she reclaimed her birth name, Eleni, when she realized that her birth name reflected the essence of her soul. On a path of rediscovery and through combining her years of teaching, modalities, and practicing hypnotherapy, she has developed her own framework called the Connected Heart, which helps people to live a more heart-centered life. With that, welcome, Eleni. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really love being here. Thank you.
This is awesome. And we were talking, for the guests who don't know, I'm in the Midwest in the U.S. and Eleni's 14 hours ahead of me in Australia. So it's a little early in the morning for her. So I appreciate it. If I were, 7:30, I'm just splashing coffee on my plate. Wake up. So, and I think I saw you were a runner at some point too, because I usually get up in the morning and go out for a run myself.
I did. I used to be a runner, but now I no longer run. I don't have any meniscus left in my knees. And so it's walking now for me, much more gentler exercise.
Yeah, meniscus is kind of important when you're running, but let's talk about you. From what I have read about you, Eleni, you have had quite a personal evolution on your journey in life. You basically remade yourself over the last 25 years. So was there a particular moment in time or experiences that caused you to go through this?
It's an ongoing journey. Like, we continue to just remove the layers to get closer to who we really are. So around about 30 years ago, I experienced depression and chronic anxiety. And I started the path of working out who I was and what I was doing with my life. And after working in the corporate world for 22 years as an economist, actually, so completely different, I just decided that I did not want to do another 22 years of serving the purpose of adding to the bottom line of big corporations, which was basically my job. And so I knew that I just could not do it for that amount of time. So then it was, well, then what do I do? And one of my colleagues had written a book, and the book was called 30 something and over it. And it spoke to me, even though I was 40 something and over it at the time. And I decided that what she said in the book was that we need to find, everyone's got their baby inside of them. Every single person has their baby. And it's about working out and discovering, reconnecting with that baby and allowing that baby to flourish. And it was like, well, what's my baby? I have no idea what my baby is. And so then I started to become observant in my life, like what gave me joy? What conversations gave me joy? And let's start there. And sure enough, the way that it works, Carl, and I'm sure you know this, is that the moment you decide something, the universe will give you an opportunity and give you the first door. And what we need to know is that that first door is not the ultimate door, but it's the first door that leads to the next door, because people want to know what the ultimate door is before they take a single step. And that's what keeps people stuck in really a situation where they need to move out of. And so that's where my journey of becoming a hypnotherapist began, back there. And then ever since, it's been a constant journey of, well, what gives me joy now and what gives me joy now, because it doesn't stay the same. Even when you find your purpose work keeps unraveling. You think you've got it, you think you know it, but then as you evolve, your purpose work changes as well.
Very, very interesting too. And the other things that I've done in researching on you is that you reclaimed your birth name of Eleni instead of, you've been known as Helen. So, I mean, was on your birth certificate Eleni?
It's interesting that the birth certificate was Eleni, because that is the Greek version of my name, and the exact translation is Helen. And as my parents were immigrants, they wanted to make life easy for all of us. And so everybody's name got translated immediately before we started school. And so the exact translation was Helen. And so I built my whole brand on Eleni Mitas. The book that I wrote is written by Eleni Mitas. My website, my YouTube, I was known in the hypnotherapy community as Eleni Mitas. That's how I did all my speaking engagements, all my training. Everything had that brand behind it. And so it was quite a scary thing to let that go. But I knew I needed to let that go and reclaim my birth name. And then I found out much later on that my birth name, Eleni, actually means light.
Yeah, very cool.
It actually means. Yeah. And I never knew that before.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to have to put sunglasses on. The light is shining so great right through the screen here. This is great. Well, good for you, because I think that's a beautiful name, Eleni. So again, investigating a little bit more about you and this amazing evolution that you've gone through on your own journey. I saw in one of your videos that you had to overcome some serious grief regarding your father, and also I think you had relationship issues too. How did all this happen, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I was very close to my dad. I call him the first love of my life. And his passing definitely awakened me even further to what else is there. And in terms of that grief is something that until you experience it, even as an experienced therapist, and I've had grandparents pass who are very close to me and so on, but when it's somebody that you are so connected to and almost a codependency with, and it really shakes you up, and it's a completely different experience. It really is. What I did, Carl, was I allowed myself to grieve as much as I needed to. And just when I thought the grieving was over, a wave would hit me and it would start again. And that's the way it is with grief, is that it's this big roller coaster ride of, oh, I'm fine now. I think I've got it all out of my system. And then it hits you again really, really hard. And it's just about really allowing the body to release it, There is no, it's got to be over by a certain amount of time. And that way you don't get physically sick. You don't have physical ailments because you let it go. You just release it. But yeah, certainly that experience helped me to have a big look at every single part of my life and what needed to change, what was keeping me feeling as if this is work and this is hard and this is stressful, and what needed to be lifted and released out of my life. And at the same time, I also had a spiritual awakening. So, and that was with plant medicine. And so that was huge in my awakening process.
That's interesting. That I didn't expect you to say that, because I have had other guests. I've had shamans on here who do ayahuasca plant medicine and mushroom ceremonies, and I have yet to do it. And I really would like to try it. I've heard some amazing things, but you should do it in a ceremonial.
Definitely. I would never have recommended that you do something like this, which is so profound and so sacred from ancient times, that it can't be held in a space where there isn't a shaman who's holding the altar with integrity. Right. So I absolutely agree that it has to be in a ceremonial space, because there's too much going on, way too much going on that we don't understand, and that we can't possibly hold the space for on our own.
And the other thing that you said too, that, you have to let, well, in this case, grief, you have to let grief go, instead of, because most people stuff trauma and grief and unforgiveness and grudges down into their subconscious, unconscious, where it ruminates at a low vibrating energy and actually causes physical maladies, either bodily or mentally, or both. And so I'm really glad that you pointed that out. But when your father passed, you're also were going through a spiritual awakening at the same time. And that's a blessing, because it probably helped you to overcome it. And now that you were looking towards something bigger outside of yourself.
Definitely. It was a key part in terms of me transitioning into the next stage of my evolution. I've had so much contact with my father since his passing, so many signals, so many signs where he has visited me. And it's just been really, really profound to know that he's not gone. I can't imagine what it would be like to have no faith, to know that the person that you love so much has just turned to dust and they're gone. That just doesn't happen. Energy can't turn to dust. Energy has to transform. That's just, to me, that's an obvious scientific fact, in that energy has to transform to the next thing. It can't just disappear. And so, what do we do with this time that we're here? Mm-hmm. We're given this absolute blessing of being alive during this time on earth, during this time, which is so, so profound, like you said in your introduction, that what do we do with this time? Do we just look forward to our weekends? Do we just look forward to our days off?
Yeah.
Do we absolutely marvel at every second of our day and the miracle that is this life? And I've chosen to live the latter.
And, understanding that energy never dies, and that's got to be a really comforting feeling for you when your father passed away. So his body is not necessarily around, but he's not gone. His essence is there.
Oh, yeah. Like when you just said that, I can actually I just have this feeling of goosebumps throughout my body, because, if I needed him, I called him in and I could feel him. Like I would put my hands up and I could feel his energy. I could feel him. I could sense him, and I knew that he was there. So it's been quite a ride. Yeah. That doesn't mean that we don't miss the physical presence. And that's why grief is such a powerful emotion that needs to be released, because we crave that physical touch and the physical presence and the physical human. So that doesn't take that away. But it's certainly a massive comfort to know that I will be reunited and he's here. He's not gone anywhere. He's just in a different dimension.
He's a true dad. He goes, I'm not abandoning my baby girl. I'm here when
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I love that. Wow, this is just, there's just so much more to talk about with you. And let's go back to your the beginning of your personal awakening and your transformation into what you do now. What was it that drew you to doing hypnotherapy?
Well, I would say that in terms of the initial course, which was hypnotherapy, what drew me was I found that I pulled myself out of depression and anxiety. I didn't take medications, nothing wrong with people who do, but many doctors wanted to give me medication at the time, and I pulled myself out, and I knew that was the way for me. And so I wanted to show the way for others, that they can empower themselves, they can step out of victim consciousness, that they can do the things that they think they couldn't do. Even you mentioned running before. When I used to see runners, I would be like, they're from another planet. I don't even know how they do that. How do they go for these long runs for hours and hours? And then I did it. And it kept on being that process of everything I was frightened of, everything I was scared of, I did. And so I wanted to help others get out of their own way and really release those beliefs that they thought was in the way of them living their life and connecting to who they really are and what they can really do. So I wouldn't call that my awakening part. That was more my empowerment part. That's when I really stepped into my power. But my spiritual awakening occurred absolutely in July 2021 with plant medicine. That's when I saw the behind the scenes. That's when I understood that this is just a game. This is an illusion. This is when I completely understood how abundance worked. I knew before, I knew the concepts of law of attraction and all the rest of it. I worked them really well. I was able to manifest what I wanted in my life. But it really wasn't until July 2021 when I was sitting in that teepee in country Victoria, where I actually saw my whole life from behind the scenes. Wow. And I saw my ego for the very first time. Mm-hmm. And I saw that my ego was running the show. And that worked in the old paradigm. That worked in the old world of doing things, that doing, hustling, work, manifest. Yes, all these successes come to you, and I achieved way more than I ever imagined possible. But I was also exhausted. I was also very tired. I was also not stopping to smell the roses. I also felt guilty every time I really and truly rested. I also looked towards a full calendar as a sign of success. And when I had my spiritual awakening, I realized that was not the way that I wanted to live anymore. And I needed to start shedding all the layers. And that also included all my hypnotherapy training that I did, which was my biggest source of income. It included all the events that were all set up automatically. I had trainers, I had everything set up, online programs, funnels, all the rest of it. And it was like, all of that no longer matters. I'm going to connect back into what really matters. And it's not that. It's not the hustle. It's not the success. It's not the status symbol. It's not how many clinics I've got. It's not how many people I've trained. All of that actually doesn't make any difference at all in the whole scheme of my achievements. It makes a difference in terms of impacting the world, and thousands of people have had the ripple effect, and they still do, of releasing their limiting beliefs and getting rid of their stuck emotions and living a different life. But in terms of me and me saying that was me, that wasn't me. That was just the universe working through me. So that wasn't me. And yet I was so proud of all these achievements. These achievements were not mine to be proud of. I was just the human body acting out a role that I courageously did. And I give myself full credit and so much love for that, because there was so much courage that was required for me to take on that role, to step into areas that really scared the crap out of me. Even doing stage hypnosis in the United States in front of thousands of people, something I never thought I would ever do. And yet I still did all that, even though it scared me. So I love the former me who did all that, who worked so hard, who would do whatever it took. But at the same time, I know that that is not sustainable, and that is not where I need to be. I need to be in the full presence of who I really am at my core. I really have to be mindful of watching my ego, and I watch my ego on a daily basis. And it's a very, very sneaky thing. It comes out in many different disguises. And it tries to take over again, and I won't allow it to, because I know now. And when you know the truth of who you really are at your core, there's nothing more powerful than that.
Wow, that is amazing. You're living what you teach, and that is why people love you and your integrity in that. But I found it interesting that during your plant medicine ceremony, you saw your own ego, and it probably had big fangs and sharp claws and was going like that. So.
Well, I didn't see it like that, because I still loved it. I still love it, and I still love it because its highest intention is to keep me safe. And so I see my ego as like an overbearing mother or parent, probably the way that I used to be with my child, who's now nearly 30. But definitely, I only had one child, and I was that overbearing helicopter parent that would be all over him all the time. And that's what the ego does. I just wanted to keep him safe. So I see my ego as who I was with my son. Just wants to keep me safe. Just really wants the best for me. So I have I don't judge it, but I do watch it, and I make sure that it's not in control, because it was in control all the way up to my spiritual awakening. It doesn't mean that I didn't operate from a heart space. Of course I did. But who made decisions about business? Who made decisions about how hard I had to work? Who planned 15 months ahead my calendar every single day so that there was no space in the calendar just in case I fell behind? Of course it was the ego. And so it was really, really challenging to let that go, because you really have to then allow the space, the void, the nothingness to be okay.
Wow. I love that term, helicopter parent.
You don't have that in the States? You don't have that in the States? That's a common term here.
Probably, but I'm not a parent, so my cat probably thinks I'm a helicopter pet owner. But this is great. And you have a 30-year-old son. You look like you're 25. Is that possible?
That's just the Zoom filter.
Well, let's go back a little bit more about hypnotherapy. What makes hypnotherapy any more effective than any other therapeutic modality?
Look, I don't want to say any more effective, because I believe that the modality that you're drawn to is the one that's right for you. Yeah. So to say that this is the only one, again, my previous egoic self would have definitely have believed and said that. But there is many paths to ascension, to our spiritual evolution, and that is one of them. For me, that's what I needed, because my conscious mind was always in the way. And so what hypnotherapy does is that we bypass the critical, analytical, conscious, egoic mind, and we go straight to the subconscious mind. And so what that means is that we're not speaking to the conscious mind. We're not speaking to the blocks, to the reasons why we can't do something. And so the reason why hypnosis is so powerful, like with our clients who come to us with chronic depression and anxiety, you can't talk your way out of it. It would take years and years and years and years. But with hypnosis, you can get to the core. You can go right back to where it first started, because it did start somewhere. I know that many people say, it's a chemical imbalance, and, we don't know the cause of it. How did the chemical imbalance occur? And what is a chemical imbalance anyway when you really look into it? What is a chemical balance? Nobody knows. And so it doesn't mean that our whole bodies are a chemical factory. And so when we're feeling depressed or sad, it shows in the brain. And so we always find the cause for everything. So with depression, with any kind of emotion that the client is feeling, there always is a starting point where there was some sort of trauma that was unresolved, some sort of programming that happened. We all experience trauma, and we all experience programming, every single one of us. And that is what keeps us stuck. So when we say trauma, people think, oh, that means it has to be huge. We had to have fought in a war and then we have trauma. No, trauma could be that somebody said something to you in the playground when you were 7 years old and you didn't release that, but you believed you were less than. And then something else happens and then you believe you're less than. And then something else happens and then you're convinced that you're less than. And then you're this adult that all of a sudden thinks that they're not good enough, which is the core of suffering across the board. And so hypnotherapy goes down to the very core of, where did this start? Let's learn from it. Let's release it. Because it's part of our learning process. This is why we're here on earth, is to learn about ourselves, is to understand who we are, to know that we are just as good as anybody else, that we are all perfect the way that we are. We don't need to be anything else or anybody else. So it really is about getting to the core and releasing the core, not putting a Band-Aid. It's not about let's be mindful and let's be grateful. Sure, all of those techniques are wonderful, but they're later on. First of all, before we can be grateful, we need to release the trauma and we need to release the beliefs that have arisen from programming.
What a beautiful explanation. Thank you for that. I think you got a future in this business. So keep at it. I told a friend of mine that I was going to be talking to a hypnotherapist on the show, and she wanted me to ask you this question. When she does a session with her hypnotherapist, she's not sure if she's actually hypnotized or not. And she wants to know how, if she can tell, is she under and that it was successful?
Well, how she can tell, that's a really good question. So how she can tell is, did she get the outcome that she wanted? So she doesn't have to worry about her state, whilst she's in hypnosis. Just assume that everything is perfect the way it needs to be. And did she get the outcome? Did she get the result? Ultimately, that's all that matters. Don't worry about what happens in the room. Your analytical mind cannot work out if you're in a certain state, but the symptoms that you're feeling is your body's feeling very, very, very heavy. You might feel tingly, and you might be experiencing this sensation of that it's just a very, very different feeling where the whole body feels very heavy, almost like you can't move it.
And my understanding is when you're under hypnosis, you're moved down into the alpha and theta brain waves, where that actually connects you straight to your subconscious, right?
Correct. So the alpha is the very first stage where we go into that daydreaming kind of mode. We could be in an alpha state when we're driving our car and we're driving from one place to another. We don't know how we got there. And then the next stage after that is when we go even deeper and even deeper and even deeper. So then we move into theta, and in that theta state, that's when we feel very, very heavy. So in alpha, you can you can have your eyes open, and you're still in that alpha state. But in theta is when you're going even deeper and you're feeling very heavy. And then delta is when we're going very slow, and that's when we typically fall asleep. So the interesting thing about hypnosis is that every single person goes through every single level every single day. Otherwise, how do you get to sleep? Yeah. So you move down through the different levels of trance. I mean, that's just science. And what we do in hypnosis is just take people there.
Wow, that's great. We are speaking to Eleni Mitas from Australia. She's an amazing hypnotherapist, among other things, international inspirational speaker. So I definitely want to start talking about this. So like everybody else in the world, of the 8 billion people in the world, the pandemic had a big effect on us and helping us, causing us to look inwards and see what's going on now. So you now have a global-wide business called Hypnofit. Was that a result of the pandemic, or did that come about earlier? And how did the idea for it come about?
The way that it came about was that I had created a business that was very successful here in Melbourne. And I knew that it could just be, it could be, what's the word for it? I'm stuck for words. That it could be, exactly. So I could pick up this system and all the processes that I've created and recreate it anywhere else. And so I've got the systems, I've got the programs, I've got the teachings. It works. And therefore, if it works here, it can work anywhere. So did it happen during the pandemic? No, the actual thinking and the putting together of it occurred, started before the pandemic. But what the pandemic did was, it was a gift for me because it allowed me to do so much more, so a lot easier, because I didn't have to fly everywhere like I used to. I literally used to fly everywhere all the time. I lived out of a suitcase, and then I could just settle back and work from home, which was a great gift for me. It almost felt like for me that the pandemic happened for me, because I know that there were many people who suffered, and I don't want to take that away from them. But for myself, just before it happened, I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's just too much. All this flying and all this traveling, it's just too much. It's got to stop. But I didn't know how to stop it, because it was earning, it was giving me so much in terms of feeling good about what I was doing, and also serving my purpose work, and also delivering in terms of financial abundance. And so I didn't know what to do. And then the pandemic hit, and then, well, there was my answer. And all of a sudden, everything went online. And it saved me a lot in terms of travel, time, effort. And so, yes, it certainly fast-tracked things for me. And my most profitable years were during the pandemic years.
Wow. So what exactly is Hypnofit?
Hypnofit is a hypnotherapy clinic, and its mission is helping people become emotionally, mentally, and physically fit. And what that means is that you can't just look at physical fitness. There's always, people want to come to us and just lose weight and get fitter, but then the reason why they're carrying this extra weight is because there are emotions that have not been released from the body. And so they are naturally seeking food as comfort. But we need to stop with the Band-Aid and get to the real cause of what's really going on with people. And what's really going on with people is that we need to get to the core of releasing stuck emotions and releasing those limiting beliefs that are stopping them from living their full potential. So it's all about getting to the cause. So the hypnotherapy that I teach, and I've trained over 4,000 hypnotherapists across the globe, is to always go to the cause. It's not about you're coming in for anxiety and I'm going to talk to you, say something to you, and now you've got no anxiety. There's a reason as to why you're holding that fear in your body. Let's get to the reason. Let's let it go. So you're not just feeling good during this time, but the next time something happens in your life, you now have a completely different way of processing that information in your nervous system.
Wow, that is awesome. And what you're talking about too, the mental and the physical pillars, that's kind of like my ebook, The 3 Pillars, in which I talk about mental, physical, and spiritual pillars. You have to keep them strong with no cracks in them so that your house can stand for the ages in a healthy, strong, rock solid manner. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So are you back traveling some? But not quite as much.
Well, I travel every month because in this new life that I live by the ocean. And I literally overlook the ocean in the city of Adelaide. And so it is a 50-minute plane ride. So I travel every month to come back to Melbourne to visit my clinic and to speak to staff and reconnect with my family and so on. But other than that, and traveling around Australia for some holidays, I have not yet gone back, because I used to go 4 times a year to the States.
Okay.
So I haven't done that since the pandemic. I am still really making sure that I'm in a place. I'm writing a second book, and I am just taking it really easy. I'm not running the way I used to. I don't live the way I used to live. I take it nice and easy. I enjoy my life. And when it's time, when there's a calling for me to go back to the States, because I love the States. I love the people. I love the American people. When there's a calling, I will do it, but it's not yet. At the moment, I'm still just taking it easy and really just learning to live this different life of being rather than doing.
Boy, that sounds pretty nice to me. So keep doing what you're doing. Gosh, I bet you're not as stressed out either.
Oh, I can't even tell you. I couldn't meditate before, because if I stopped for 5 minutes, my head would be so full of thoughts that it would be torturous. So now I love meditation. It's something that it's the most important practice I do. Previously, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run to the gym, lift the weights, and the whole day was like that. It was like, go, 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 go. Now I just wake up and I can't wait to sit up and do my meditation and go to a different place and really feel into my heart. I start the day with tears going down my face, because I'm connecting into the truth of who I am and the love of who I am. And that's the way that I live my life now. It is completely different. My whole life has really, really softened in a beautiful way. And, I think we're all asked to do that now, that we've got to stop with the running and the hustling and the massive action that was required in a past world. And it's all about softening into who we really are and focusing on what really matters. And what really matters more than anything are relationships. Like, how do we hold our relationships? How are we in the world, even with people that we don't know? How are we? How do we treat them? Do we see them? Do we just walk past them? And for me, it's all about my relationship with the world. Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, who am I speaking to? Am I giving all of me to them? And really being conscious of every moment, as opposed to letting the moment run me.
Well, I would imagine that many of the viewers and listeners here can relate to that go, 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 go mentality and not taking, just stopping and taking a breath for themselves. So yeah, some good advice from a woman who knows how to do that. Thank you for that, Eleni. There's something else that I really am interested in. Tell us more about what you mean by living a more heart-centered life, and think how you encourage people to lead from the heart. I'm guessing you just kind of talked about that right now.
Yeah, that's right. So it really is about, when we're making decisions about anything, is it from our mind? Because if it's from our mind, it's from our ego mind, or is it from our heart, which is our soul? So when we're making a decision, does this feel like our body is contracting, or does it feel like it's opening up? If it feels like it's opening up, it's from our heart. And so I will not do anything these days that doesn't give me total joy. And I can hear many listeners saying, oh yeah, that might be all right for you, but I've got to do this because I've got to pay the bill. The incredible thing about it is that when you do let go, and when you do trust that the universe that we live in is abundant, it's just that our blocks stop it from arriving to us, then we become more abundant than we can possibly know. We become more at peace. We have better relationships. We realize that we don't really need that much anyway. We don't need all the things that we think we need, and that's all keeping us stuck. And it's all about getting back to what feels good, what gives you joy. That's how living from the heart as opposed to the head.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I love that. That's great. A great explanation. I kind of follow, there's an organization called the Heart Math Society, and
Mhm.
Greg Braden is one of the big proponents of that organization. And they say that, well, I guess scientific studies show that the energy of the heart, or the aura of the heart, radiates far outside of the body. And they even postulate that the heart is actually the real center of not the brain, the heart is.
Totally, totally, totally. The brain is not. I mean, how many times have you heard thousands of cases, thousands upon thousands, where the brain has been clinically dead, and then there's a consciousness there that doesn't require the brain. There's still visions that are had, and still an experience that is felt without the brain. We've been duped into thinking that the brain is at the center of it, but it's not. It's not. Of course, we can't discount the brain. We do need our brain. it is required. But in terms of what is actually at the center of our consciousness, it is our heart space.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think that's something that people really need to stop and think a little bit more about, listening to your heart, and not that monkey mind in your head all of the time. So, well, and like I've mentioned, I mean, just looking at all the things, the beautiful abilities you have. One other aspect that I found fascinating, I saw you do a video series with a friend of yours who channels some ascended masters. How did that come about, and who are these beings that he channels?
Okay, so they're not ascended masters. So ascended masters, when we say the term ascended masters, we're referring to Jesus Christ, the Buddha, and so on. They're ascended masters. So the being that he channels is not an ascended master, but it is a higher dimensional being.
Okay.
So it's a being from a higher dimension, which is not the dimension that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it is quite fascinating. I love having these discussions with Marcus. Is the one that channels a higher dimensional being called Amid. Amid is actually a feminine being, not a masculine being. And every single week, Amid starts with what messages they would like to tell us. Now, the thing is, whether people believe that or not is irrelevant, because it's the message that matters. And with any channeled messages, when you see people that have the gift of channeling, because there are many people that can channel across the globe, when you see people that channel, it's really quite fascinating, because they never stop for breath. It's just this continuous dialogue, because they're so keen to give us these messages. And so basically what happens every week is I interview Ahmed, who is the high dimensional being, and we get beautiful messages. And what I'm going to start to do now, because the messages can be quite complicated when delivered in their language, because they speak a certain way, is that I'm going to start a new series where I just talk about the main points in a very practical, everyday way, so that people can take the points and it will make a real difference in their life, because these points are very important in terms of how we live this life in this new earth that we're creating. So, yeah, Marcus, when he first started channeling 30 years ago, he didn't believe in any of this, didn't understand any of this. He was in the corporate world, and the way that it happened for him was that he got chronic fatigue syndrome, and he literally couldn't move. So the only thing he could do was meditate. And so he meditated all day, every day, for hours and hours. And all of a sudden this being walked in and gave him all this information. And at the beginning, Marcus thought he was going crazy. He actually literally thought he was making it all up, until things started arriving at his doorstep, physical things. The evidence came out. Marcus asked for proof that this being was real, and so he would tell him the proof, and he gave him a whole course on ancient Egyptian wisdom that he ended up creating a whole course for. And really, he's kept it private, and only to the people he knew would believe him. But it's me that came in a few years ago and said to him, Marcus, you've got this gift. We need to make it public. And so I encouraged him to let go of his fears about what people would think about him, because he is such an analytical, logical person, and come out. In fact, I've helped 2 channels come out. So 2 channels who channel high dimensional beings who kept it private and secret have come out and are now doing it publicly. And it's just incredible. It really is incredible that we have the opportunity to speak to a being from another dimension and get their perspective on basic things that we're navigating here on Earth.
Well, you're talking to the right audience here, because I have had ascended masters, higher dimensional beings. I have had galactic beings on here channeled through multiple different channels. Even my own mentor, Christy Whitman, who certified me as a law of attraction life coach, she now channels a group of ascended masters called the Council of Light. So yeah, maybe we should have Marcus on this show. So
yeah, he would love to. Yeah, he would absolutely love to come. I can definitely hook you both up. So for sure.
Well, so again, we're talking to Eleni Mitas from Australia. We're going to wind up here, and I just have a couple other questions here for you. What does the term spirituality mean to you?
For me, spirituality is the all-knowing, all of who we really are. So when we reincarnated into our bodies, we were given the gift of forgetting, amnesia of who we really are and where we came from. So for me, spirituality is about connecting into who we really are at our core, which is all love, no judgment, no layers, no identities, just love. So spirituality is about connecting to the source, which is love. It's not about being defined by a religion or by rules or by judgments, but it's about connecting to who we really are and why we're really here, which is to spread the word that we are love and that we are all the same, that we all come from the same place, that we all have the same God spark inside of us. So that's what it means for me. It's about connecting back to who we really are at our core, which is back to the source.
And that is a beautiful explanation. And what you just said, literally every being that was channeled on this show said exactly what you said.
There you go. Must be true.
Maybe you're channeling. So.
Could be. I think that, you know what? And that's the other thing, Carl, is that we do. Every single one of us channel, and we just don't know we do. How have all these songs been written? How have all these books been written if they're not channeled? I know myself, the first time I experienced this consciously was when I was in the hypnotherapy room, and something would come up and the words that would flow out of my mouth would be so incredible that I would astound myself, that I would leave the session and say, I know that's not me. Like, I'm not that clever. I'm the kind of person that is not that quick with witty jokes or anything. And yet those perfect words came out of my mouth at that perfect moment. I know that somebody is working through me. So we're all channeling. We're just not aware of it.
And I believe that because I do a lot of writing. I published a full book last year, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. I write a lot of blogs and other things. And literally when I'm done writing, I'll go back maybe the next day and read it. And I go, I wrote that? No, wait, what? That was just came right through me, like. But speaking of books, I would like to find out about your book, Mindset Dominance, Mindset Dominance.
Well, I wrote that book, and it's a brilliant book. I wrote that book years ago, and it was all about, there's a lot of examples and cases in there they were all my client stories about how to utilize your mind so that you can do whatever you want to do in life. So how we stop self-sabotage and these habits that keep us stuck. But my second book, which I'm writing at the moment, it's funny because it's the complete opposite side of the spectrum. That one was all about the mind. This one is about awakening. So this book is going to be about the awakening formula. So understanding who we really are and why we're really here. And the reason it's called the awakening formula is because, as I said previously, my training is an economist, and I'm good with formulas. I'm good with breaking things down and putting things into bite-sized chunks. And I think that's a key reason as to why I've had success with Hypnofit, is because I make things very simple. I just break things down and make it simple. So I'm going to break down the awakening process, how it happened to me, what happened, how did I awaken to understand who I really was and the game that we're really playing here on planet Earth. And I'm putting it into a formula. And so, yeah, I'm working on that at the moment. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I want to get a copy. I want to get a signed copy of that.
I'm not sure that I'll get it to you. You just need to email me your address and I'll post it out to you as soon as it's published, which will be next year.
All right, very cool. So as we wind up here, I would like to find out, how can people connect to you? I know you do workshops and programs. You work one-on-one. What's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, no, I don't work one-on-one. Certainly my therapists do, but I don't.
Okay.
Best way to find me is through YouTube. So Eleni Mitas, ELENIMITAS. My website's called Eleni Mitas. I'm on Instagram as Eleni Mitas. And we're going to be putting, I'm in the process of creating 3 podcasts. And so, Eleni Mitas is where I will be talking about those podcasts as soon as they're getting launched.
Wow, that is great. So don't get so busy. You're going go again.
No, these are all things that I love doing. And I'm being very selective about what I do and the activity that I'm doing.
And, I'm right there with you. At this point in my life, I just want to do what I have a passion for and is helping to make the world a better, happier, healthier, more loving place. So good for you. That is awesome. Eleni, thank you. Thank you for blessing us with an appearance on World Awakenings. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carl, for having me on. I really appreciate you and the work that you're doing.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.